Would you say this type of collaboration is one of the things that's making this all a success with Growing Together Northeast Nebraska?
It is really such a difference in people working together to make our community better.
Norfolk, Nebraska. There's a good chance you haven't heard of this town, but there's a lot you can learn from them. Angie Stenger leads Northeast Nebraska Growing Together, an organization that's on a mission to connect manufacturers, educators, investment, the community, you name it, all in an effort to grow the population and attract young people to this region. I am drinking a Pseudo Sue, which is
It looks very milky.
It's a hazy pale ale.
Oh,
it's
hazy.
Pretty juicy, but most importantly, I'm drinking it out of a Divots pint glass because right next door we've got Divots Brewery.
Right.
Not open on Tuesdays.
Not officially their brewery, but their tasting
room.
room.
This is their tap room.
Brewery is out, and they have a tap room at their brewery too, but they only open on certain days for that.
Got it. Well, since we're rolling, basically, let's rock and roll. Tell us. Some of our audience probably is listening on audio and can't see where we are right now. So paint the picture of where we're hanging out. We're at a place called the District, correct?
Yes, this is District Table and Tap, and it is one of the cool, and I keep saying new places in downtown Norfolk, but it's been here about 5 years, and they opened up. They focus on live music. They have flatbread. They recently expanded and added burgers to their menu with a new kitchen. And they are just really the leaders in funness in downtown Norfolk. Is that okay word?
I think that's a great way to describe it. Funness will adopt that word for this episode.
Also added on, so they started as just a restaurant and then would have music. Then they have a building 2 doors down that is their event center. They bring in comedians all the time. Like we've had some SNL acts, we've had different acts.
I noticed that. Yeah, it's a strong lineup that you have coming through here.
And then next to that, they have taken a space and made it an outdoor patio. They will have wine tastings, beer tastings, whiskey tastings. They also own a distillery here in Nebraska, and so they will do a lot of tastings from Luecke River whiskey, etc., bourbon, etc., and just be a part of everything happening downtown. They've kind of they're the ones that spurred the fun when it came to entertainment and all the fun things to do.
Tell me a bit more about that, because if I understand it right, the District was kind of a catalyst to getting this like a resurgence in this downtown Norfolk area. Is that correct?
Well, there are several things that happened in the last 5 years, or now 6. There was a group of people that said, what do we need to make this area succeed long term? And they did a lot of analyzing of data, census data, things like that. And that can be really boring, but to nail it all down, the Exarban Foundation, which is out of Omaha, came in and helped fund this. A little hint, Exarban Foundation. Exarban is Nebraska spelled backwards.
Interesting. Would not have guessed that.
Anyway, so the Exarban Foundation came in and helped them do this study, and a large group of people were involved, including the owner of this building and a partner in this restaurant. And one of the things they saw was that we had young people leaving Northeast Nebraska, and they had to figure out, if we want to make a concerted effort, what are we going to do to keep young people living, working, playing?
Yeah.
One of those ideas was this downtown development, creating that false density that brings people who are of the same age, young people living in the same area. You know, we're a really small rural town. And when I say really small, we're 25,000. We are the hub of Northeast Nebraska, the retail hub, but small compared to Omaha or, Des Moines or Kansas City or Denver. So we wanted to make sure what could bring these people. And so this group of people put together the Growing Together plan and then made me the executive director, so I get to deal with all these people and tell them all the cool things that are happening in Norfolk. And it's all has been created to attract young families to stay here or move back here or be a part of that. And part of that downtown density includes cool new housing downtown, apartments upstairs, this beautiful facility like this and several new restaurants, a cigar bar, a park that has been created in the middle of downtown where they do the farmers market every week.
Okay.
And so that was all this downtown development. And yes, the district was one of those first restaurants right in the middle of downtown that opened in October of 19 or fall of 19. And then, as I said, has just continued to expand and bring other things to the community. They now also are involved in a couple of other bars and other places throughout downtown.
Now, I think one thing with this interview we're going to learn is, hey, what can other people do to replicate what you've done? And my next question is around Northeast Nebraska Growing Together, the organization that you chair. And you've already started talking about some of the things that I'm familiar with it, right? You're trying to attract young people, get young people to stay, bring them here. When you're hanging out with someone at Divots or the district or wherever you are, how do you describe holistically what Northeast Nebraska Growing Together does, as if you're having a drink with them?
Well, the probably least appropriate way to explain it has always been has been like, well, the goal is to repopulate Northeast Nebraska. People say, Angie, what's your job? Well, I'm trying to help repopulate Northeast Nebraska.
Okay.
And my husband's family is like, does your husband know that? I'm like, yes, I don't. But it is. It's just a matter of finding all sorts of different opportunities that we can attract people. And that includes, being involved with the new innovation hub that's going to be built in downtown Norfolk that helps train up younger kids into robotics and into manufacturing and trying to open their eyes to what some of those options are. That's through Northeast Community College. We have, I really cannot nutshell this. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, this is, well, the good thing is, I think that is a good nutshell to start with, because when I was looking at it, your goals are around population growth, through growing the economy, entrepreneurship and investment, students redesigning the workforce. And we're going to talk about all these little things during this conversation. So maybe, you mentioned the downtown. Let's talk about how is Norfolk attracting people here? And then maybe specifically young people, people in general. Let's start there.
One of the things has been that just recently opened is our Whitewater Park.
Okay.
We have a river that runs through downtown Norfolk and has always run. It is our namesake. We are at the North Fork of the Elkhorn River that goes through Nebraska. And when back in the 1860s, when the German settlers came to that fork, they said, let's stay here and let's name it North Fork. And so they named the river North Fork. That became the Norfolk name. And that's how we came to be who we are. Well, that river hasn't been utilized. And so there was a group of people that wanted to make it a tourist attraction. And the city saw the value in doing that and has created a beautiful whitewater park that kids are loving. You're just seeing lots of people floating down. It is not big enough for tanking, so I can't send you down tanking, but I can send you down on really cool rafts or kayaks. There's even, we're one of the few in the country river surfing spots that you can surf on our river.
I've seen that over in Munich in Germany.
Munich, Norfolk, they're very similar. And so, but that has been one of the things. We also worked with a park that is right off the river, absolutely gorgeous, that is going to have an amphitheater so we can have festivals. It's going to have a picnic area, splash pads, ice skating rink, all the things that should attract young families. But specifically, one thing we're doing is working with area colleges to tell the message to our students that we want you to stay, or we want you to come back, or we want you to work here, live here, be a part of the future of our community. And Wayne State College, 35 miles away from Norfolk. We don't have a four-year college here, but it's our closest.
Yeah.
We tried to get them to move here. They said no. But
There's still time. There's still time.
No.
You're early in this.
It's a fabulous campus, and they have been so open to working with us and have built a program that they, when students get the Growing Together Scholarship, they go to Wayne State for 3 years with a scholarship each year. And then their senior year, they are living in downtown Norfolk in brand new housing that was just built and interning full-time at a local industry or business. And so graduating in 4 years with 1 whole year of experience. and hopefully staying here. We just graduated the first cohort, and 28 of them graduated and finished their program last May. 10 of them decided to stay in Norfolk.
Very cool.
96% of them stayed in Nebraska alone, but even 10 of them here. So that's one way that if we can show that, hey, this is an okay place to live,
yeah,
hopefully they'll stay.
Well, if I understood that correctly, part of this scholarship is the scholarship portion of it, but there's also housing and then interning with a local business.
Yes.
That's how this all comes together?
It is. So they're working at a local business, which is great for these businesses who are knowing that they need to build this pipeline of this workforce pipeline.
Yeah.
Well, let us put them in your office. I know a guy who, when I first started telling him about this, he's like, you mean I basically get to test drive them for a year? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, that makes sense because it is an internship.
Yeah.
And so then you can offer them full-time if it's going to work for you. And so, we've focused on business, on finance, on some industrial technology sponsors. We have scholarships. We have project managers. There's just a lot of the things that we know in Norfolk are important, or Northeast Nebraska. We have ag business, ag finance, communications, marketing. Those are the jobs that our local businesses are needing. And we're here to try to help provide employees to work for our local businesses.
I have a couple important questions just based on where this has gone so far. The first important question is, I think this is the first time our listeners have heard the term tanking on the show before.
I didn't know if you'd ever explain it.
We should go backwards.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's okay. That's why I'm asking. So how do you define tanking for someone that's not familiar with it?
Tanking in Nebraska is you take a cattle tank and you sit in it on a river and you float down.
And a cattle tank basically looks like one of those metal above ground pools that you see in backyards across the Midwest.
Yes. Yes.
It is, because I've lived in Missouri, Texas, California, Wisconsin, and all of those spots. Floating, like float trips, is a familiar concept. But this is like floating in a steel tank.
When I moved here, I was like, "What you mean it doesn't sink?" Because to me, a metal tank should sink to the bottom of the river. But no, they're really good at making sure A, you won't sink.
Yeah.
B, that's an activity. Some of them will put, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but some will put a picnic table right in the middle of it, and you sit at the picnic table, floating down the river.
Yeah, that seems to make perfect logical sense to me.
Our North Fork River does not allow that because it's not wide enough, and there's a lot of rocks.
Sure.
Because it's a white water. So.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, some of the rivers I've gone floating with, I'm like, I don't see how a metal tank goes down this thing.
Right.
But we're going to be doing that later this week.
I know.
I look forward to
I can't wait to see those pictures.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. So that was the first important question.
Did you get waterproof mics?
We're gonna be careful. Let's put it that way. We're not gonna bring the full rig out here like we have today. So we are gonna be very careful with that.
That's awesome.
The other question I had is, I'm curious, how many other places have something like Growing Together Northeast Nebraska? Because I feel like this seems pretty unique. Or at the very least, you're putting some of the most intentional effort that I've ever seen into something like this. But do you have other regions that you're learning from and collaborating with, or is this kind of an on your own thing?
It's really been a very interesting experiment. As I said, the Exarban Foundation helped build this, and with the intention of like, if this works in Northeast Nebraska, let's scale it across the state of Nebraska.
Sure.
And then, yes, other places. There is not this type of career scholarship opportunity, but I know lots of people are listening and looking and hearing about it because it is what we are. It's different than your engineer or your chemistry, bio, your med school stuff, rotations. But what can we do to be, more focused on rural communities? So no, we aren't studying a region. We are creating and then sharing. Okay. And so there are a lot of times, at any point, if a community wants to come learn, we're always sharing. There's one of the things that we do is a lot of art in downtown Norfolk to make it, art is an economic driver. So we have sculptures, we have murals on the wall, all sorts of different things. And that has now spread out. There's now a sculpture walk across Nebraska that started here in Norfolk. We like to call it SWAN, S-W-A-N, Sculpture Walk Across Nebraska.
Okay, yeah.
So that's in several communities. So all the things we're doing, we're trying to help spread because, again, we're in the middle of the country. This is Nebraska. And we know that if one town succeeds, all the towns around succeed. And so we want to make sure that we're raising all the tides for everyone in the state, but we're starting here in Northeast Nebraska.
Yeah. I've noticed just through the course of this conversation and my own observations, you are very clever with a lot of the words and acronyms you use here in Nebraska. The other one I'll throw out for the audience that I found particularly entertaining is that your transportation system around here. And maybe one thing most people don't know, it's spelled like Norfolk.
Yeah.
But it's
like Virginia.
Most people pronounce it Norfolk.
Yes, those who are natives.
Yeah.
I am not a native. I just moved here just 24 years ago.
Okay.
But I'm new here. But so I haven't ever gotten to the Norfolk.
Yeah.
Conversation.
That's
I'm
fair.
sorry, I feel bad. I have people all the time like, oh, we can tell you're not from here. I'm like, yeah, but I am now.
You're doing great things for the community,
I've
though.
been here a generation,
yeah,
basically.
You can pronounce it however you want with the work that you're doing. But I will say the thing that I got a kick out of was based on it being Norfolk, the fact that the transit system is called the forklift.
I know, isn't it fabulous?
Could not be better. It's fantastic. So.
And it's purple, which is my favorite color. So
I did notice that as well. But yeah, no, this is good. This is good. One other thing I noticed at the very start of our conversation that I wasn't familiar with, that you're building an innovation hub here, and you were talking about robotics. Let's talk about that more, because I want to kind of bridge from education to that, and then we'll talk a little bit about manufacturing as well. So let's talk about the innovation hub.
In the Growing Together plan, one of the pillars that we wanted to focus on was workforce retraining, knowing that as our world and the technology progresses, there's going to be people that need to figure out how to change the way they work. Whether it is more IT, more whatever that realm is. And so that is a concept of like, let's focus on changing our workforce and not changing like, oh, you're working there, we're going to change you today. No, but let's prepare our kids for the future. And so the Northeast Community College here in Norfolk is in Nebraska, community colleges are your tech workforce educators. And so they are partnering with Invest Nebraska and the Heartland Robotics Cluster to create this innovation hub. They're calling it iHub, so Innovation Hub. And it will have a space where if you want to learn to weld, if you want to learn to use the CNC machines, whatever it is, you can come in and have a membership. If you're an entrepreneur that just needs to use those pieces and don't have access because you don't work in a manufacturing facility, you can come in. Manufacturers can use the facility to help train their workers, and if they do some training in that space, but also then starting middle school and building up, creating a robotics curriculum that is going to, again, let children know or let kids know what is happening in the future and how they can be a part of what is being built and help build it.
Everything you've mentioned, it's so multifaceted, and there are a lot of different organizations involved in each of these initiatives, right? You talked about Northeast Community College, Invest Nebraska, as well as the Heartland Robotics Cluster. Would you say this type of collaboration is one of the things that's making this all a success with Growing Together Northeast Nebraska?
Very much so. If it was not a community that worked together, and that is everything from the city to our Visitors Bureau, to our chamber, to Invest Nebraska's out of Lincoln, and the robotics cluster is throughout the state. It is really such a difference in people working together to make our community better. And that's Northeast, that's Wayne State. It's whatever is the necessary things to just like come together and say, we're not saying this is my sandbox, you can't be here. We're saying, hey, I have this tool. Can I play in your sandbox? And can we all play together? As opposed to just being, it's not proprietary. It's let's all work together.
This has been very eye-opening, just learning about how all of this is coming together. One group I'd like to talk about as well, especially in this series where we're exploring how manufacturing is connected to community and culture in an area. How do you interact with manufacturers in this puzzle as well?
Well, and that's sort of where this started. There was never a maker space per se in the original plan because we didn't know that was a need. We knew that workforce retraining was going to have to be something, but we weren't sure what that would look like. And so as we gathered businesses together and said, what is it that you need in the area? This became a conversation of like, all right, let's figure out how we could help train young people. Let's figure out what it is that we need. And that was a survey the college did to ask, what are the machines you would want in here if we created it? And on that same note, that's when Wayne State originally didn't have industrial technology in one of the scholarships because we hadn't heard that need yet. And that's what we started hearing people say, like, oh man, if you could help me with logistics, if you could help me with project management. So we rolled the industrial technology into this scholarship program. So now it's all about, again, communication and hearing what people need, hearing what manufacturers need to make their businesses continue to grow and be a part. And it's all about communication.
In your own words, what does manufacturing, as well as like, let's say, staple companies or like bedrock companies like Nucor and Volcraft, what do they mean to this region?
Oh, they are, what I love to describe about Nucor is they aren't just the biggest employer in the area, they are the biggest giver. And I think that's one thing that's absolutely amazing is that, they support their teammates and everyone that is a part of them, but they also then support the community, whether it is donating to redo the park or whether it's sponsoring the local comedy festival. The Nucor is as much a community partner and sits at the table. In fact, as we sit here at District, the gentleman who owns the building and is a partner in the district is the former GM at the steel mill here in town, Dirk Peterson.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, so to me, it is all about, when you look at a business like that, it is because they are a part of the community because their teammates are a part of the community. And I think that's what brings such a value to what we have here, especially in Norfolk with all the Nucor locations. And, a steel mill in the middle of Nebraska is not a normal site. We're not in the places that people expect there to be a steel mill. But it has been awesome to see what they bring to our community.
Yeah, I'd be interested to get your take on this because someone was kind of joking around with me because, we are in a part of the state that I wouldn't say many people are traveling to all the time right now.
We're changing that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what this conversation is all about. They're like, so how many times have you been up here? I'm like, this is actually like my third time in 3 years. Like, I've been coming up here a lot. And, credit to, our friend Corey with CED Renson House, the Industrial Solutions Network. Like, they brought me out here for an event it was down the road in Columbus, Nebraska. That was really connecting the community college, local manufacturers together. Are you seeing... are you seeing more people take an interest in manufacturing as of late? I'm just curious what your observation is, and if does Nebraska have a uniquely active manufacturing community?
Oh, I think so, and I think they've done a great job of, again, working together. There, manufacturing councils, and as you talked about the event in Columbus, just people that are wanting to continue working to grow manufacturing. We have. I know that Made Here is your name, but the state chamber does a Made in Nebraska competition.
I have voted on the coolest thing made in Nebraska before. Yes, I'm very familiar with that.
Yes, and so I love that, and because part of what I love to read about it is what is it that we're making that I didn't realize?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, what a lot of people talk about what Nebraska's put out is Kool-Aid. Because, it was invented here. Johnny Carson, because he lived here.
Yep.
But, those are the things that we talk about. What's made in Nebraska? Well, it was Dorothy Lynch salad dressing and Kool-Aid. And we make a lot more cool things.
Share a couple of those, right? For the folks that might not know some of the the stuff that's made here that originates here.
If we go total nationwide, I love telling the story of Lindsay Corporation's, Lindsay Corporation and Valmont and all the center pivots are here in the state. There is also something Lindsay does that creates the zipper. Have you ever seen the zipper vehicle?
I don't know if is it a little car?
No, it's a really big machine.
Okay,
So
I don't know if I've seen it then.
If you're in San Francisco,
Yeah.
for example, this is where the one place that I've seen it work,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the Golden Gate Bridge has 5 lanes coming into town in the morning, but at night they need 5 lanes.
I know
going
what you're
out.
talking about. I lived in San Francisco. It's the
Okay,
thing that moves
yes.
the median in the middle every
Lindsay
day.
makes those.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay. How
So
about that? I had no idea.
Yeah, see? Cool. I have to give the shout out to Lindsay. But also then you look at the other things that have been created, including we have a big Kawasaki plant in Lincoln and some of the things that come out of there. The most innovative, newest thing that I know the person who has made is grain weevil. Have you seen the robot for the grain bins?
I have. Yes, I think so. Cool. It basically, it's a robot that goes in the grain silos. Am I making this up? So
Yes.
that way you can avoid having someone having to go in there to do that hazardous
Right.
work.
So, and that came from a kid in high school or college. Somebody at church was like, "Hey, you know what you need to invent? You need to invent a robot so I don't have to go in there anymore." And he did.
Nice.
And it's amazing and is saving lives and doing work. And so those are the type of things and the innovation that is coming out of Nebraska. I just had a conversation with a guy last weekend who said, "Oh yeah, I'm a farmer, I'm an inventor, because if I am, 60 miles from the implement dealership and something breaks down or they're closed because maybe it's Saturday night, I have to figure out how to make it."
Yeah.
And so I think in Nebraska, we figure out how to make the things we need. And then when the rest of the world sees it, we just figure out how to make it for everybody else.
I love it. And this has been a lot of fun. I have, let's see, like 3 questions
Okay.
as we wrap things up here in the twilight of the interview. So we'll have to go a little quick because I think we're running
sorry.
short on. No, this is good.
I
This
talk
is
a
good.
lot.
This has been great from start to finish. How are you measuring success right now with all the initiatives you have at Growing Together Northeast Nebraska?
Well, right now to measure, it is on the number of students who are taking full-time jobs. It's on the activity that's happening in downtown Norfolk. In the long run, in 10 years or now in 5 years, it will be what the census data shows us. Are we seeing a greater population? But right now it is as each thing is happening and goodness continues, even a small success, the state economic development the diplomats named us Community of the Year last week.
I heard that. Congratulations.
Yeah, so those are successes in that people are seeing us succeed and recognizing it.
So you've got the short-term wins, right?
Yep.
Students taking full-time work here in the region, but you're also, long-term is going to be looking at the census data.
Yes.
Makes perfect sense. How can other regions replicate what you're doing, right? Everything we've heard today, the different groups you're working with, what would be your advice to folks that are listening to this, coast to coast across the U.S. right now?
I think that partnership is key. I think talking to your businesses, because where you are, it may not be, who knows what it is that your community needs. So wherever we need to be, have those conversations. Get, I don't want to say focus groups, but get people together, sit down at the Chamber of Commerce and say, okay, business, what's important to you? And then figure out, all right, what can we do to make a difference? It's not an overnight thing. This was a process that they did this data and studied it and did everything. And then they came out with all their ideas, but that took a good 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And then they said, Angie, could you keep all the balls in the air? And so here I am.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you're doing a great job. I've enjoyed learning about everything you're doing in this area. Last question's a fun one.
Yeah.
Let's say we're hanging out for an evening in Norfolk, Nebraska.
Yes.
What's a good night out in the town look like? Where are you going for dinner? Where are you going for entertainment? Give us a little fun evening here.
I love to just crawl down Norfolk Avenue and have some appetizers at Bar A, which is their own meat that they are raising. I love to have a few drinks at the 5th Street, stop here at District to eat, maybe over, have some dessert at the next place. The other thing that is really cool that we have created in downtown Norfolk is the Green Light Great Night.
Okay.
Here on the front of District and on the front of most bars, there's a green light, and if they have live music at night, it starts flashing. So you can stand at the end of Norfolk Avenue and look down and go, oh, look, they have music. Oh,
That's
look, they
cool.
have music. And so that's the really fun way to just be downtown and enjoy live entertainment all throughout.
Well, I think more regions need an ambassador like yourself in there to really raise them up. But, everything you've talked about, ton of fun. We've had a great time hanging out here in Norfolk. So I just want to say, Angie, thanks so much for jumping on the show.
Thanks.
Cheers.
really dumb.
That was a lot of fun.